name's Nathan Tate, and I'm the co-writer and director and producer of OffRamp.
Never trust a painted face.
I only trust a painted face.
It's a movie about two Juggalos on their way to the gathering who get in some trouble along the way.
Recognize miracles. Are you a believer in miracles? Do you know to recognize miracles?
No way! Whoop, whoop, the carnival provides.
It is a pleasure to have all of you here. I want to thank you all for accommodating your schedules. I know everybody's in different time zones, but I do understand that the movie is about family. Bob just pointed out that his favorite line was actually one of, I believe it's Ashley's line from the trailer, where you say,
you know, family ain't exactly a good thing for everybody.
And I feel like that's a lot of the reason why people like gravitate to the Juggalo culture, because they come from maybe a bad family or a bad background, or maybe don't feel accepted. And so I was wondering, what drew each of you to this project, and do you have a personal connection to Juggalo culture?
I have a bit of a personal connection with Juggalos. I grew up in East Texas. Definitely not like a super rich or wealthy, well-off family. And I just grew up like, I don't know, around a lot of like subculture. My sister was like super gothic, and she dated this one guy who's a Juggalo. And when I was 13, I went to my very first gathering, and like I didn't really have any like preconceived notions on what a Juggalo was or anything. But when I walked into the gathering, there's like a local gathering in East Texas. But I remember walking in feeling a bit anxious because, you know, I was 13. I didn't really have like a sense of self, or like, I mean, I just didn't feel like very comfortable in a lot of new situations. And I remember feeling like just the love instantly, like everybody just opens arms and gives you really big hugs. And it's just like, welcome, like your family. And like, I just had never in my life felt that, including even sometimes in my own family. So to experience that for the first time, I think it really that experience with Juggalo culture really made me feel like, wow, this is a group of people that are wildly misunderstood and really are almost spiritual, and the message is love, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, so when I first read it, I was like, this is the weirdest script I've ever read in my life. And my agent was like, oh, well, you don't have to do it. I was like, no, I want to. This is great. Because the thing, twists and turns, but then more than anything, the love underneath it. I was like, what is this? Like, wholesome craziness. So that was like, artistically, first of all, I was really, really drawn to it, and I couldn't pass up a character like Silas. Like it's everything I've ever wanted to do. And then as I started to kind of look into Juggalo, and you know, there's not such great press, right? It's kind of not the representation that's out there in the world about who Juggalos are and what they're about isn't awesome until you start to look at what Juggalos are putting out. Of course, what comes from the community is real, right? And as I was watching that, I was like, oh, this feels... It was sort of like as close as I could get to like a pride parade, but not LGBTQ necessarily, right? Like not specifically. And I was like, I like this. I like this love that's going on here. And then as we're making it, I just felt like, wow, if this is what being a Juggalo is, I want to be one. Like I am one already. You know, I come from a community, I'm trans, and I come from a community that is, you know, othered and outside and reviled, and people make up nonsense about who we are and what we want and what we do, you know. So I really brought that very, you know,
yeah.
Right, exactly. And the resonance of like, yeah, but it's really all about love and being yourself no matter what, and radical acceptance of yourself and others. You know, that was something that I could really jive with and really enjoyed playing in a way that wasn't necessarily, you know, specifically, you know, for my community, right?
And every trans person I ever met is nothing but loving and amazing and truly unique in a lot of ways. And I think that should be celebrated. So hopefully we do have people in your life that do celebrate you on a regular basis, because you do deserve that. I just wanted to say that. Hope it's not like corny or whatever. There, now I feel better.
I'm just gonna pop in and say whoop whoop.
There you go.
Whoop whoop from the raccoon.
And Johnny, do you have anything that drew you to this project?
Man, I always like that question. I always kind of laugh at it because I get asked, like, what drew you to this project? It's like, well, someone offered me work. So I took it, right? It's like, I'm not really at the level to turn down work unless it's like horrendous, then I'll turn it down. But no, I had worked with the co-writer, Tim Cairo, before. So when he said, I've got this new script, I want you to read it, might have a part for you. It's just like, well, if you wrote it, then I'm in, if you'll have me. Like, I don't second guess what Tim writes because I think he's amazing. But then meeting Nate and talking with him was just like, yeah, after I talked to both those guys and read a little bit of the script, I was like, okay, now I really want this. I really want to do it. But my only, I grew up listening to like Limp Bizkit and Rage Against the Machine and stuff. So I had an ICP shirt and I liked the hits that were on the radio. But no, until I started researching it for this movie, I didn't know there was just this whole Juggalo spirit and underground like family acceptance, which yeah, it kind of blew me away. I grew up in a really close-knit family. I'm super close to my brother and sister. I see my parents all the time. So that was eye-opening for me to Eden brings that up. And it's like, well, not all families, a good thing. It's like for me growing up, it's like, oh, I never, me, John Oswald, doesn't really realize that because I grew up in a nice, safe bubble. Yeah, I realized family is not great for everybody. But I think this movie, no matter what background you're from, there's something beautiful in it for everybody, which I loved. I mean, it's just so well written.
You know how some actors will just do the script and some actors will actually method act. Did you guys, what style did you use for immersion for your characters?
Well, Silas felt like almost like a visitation. So first of all, I had to put my hair up in those braids. And that took 5 hours. And as it was, I was like, I just felt like, I had my lines, I had rehearsed and whatever, but it really kind of all started to come together. And then I had to stay in that hair for the whole time. And because I was in that hair the whole time, I kind of just never really stopped being silent. A little bit, right? Actually, I was a little, both of you saw, I wasn't full method, but I was not ever fully out of Silas. And that was the best time of my life. It was amazing.
How about you, Ashley?
I just pulled from stuff from my life that made me feel like, like a little lost and scared, or like I really desired something outside of this life. Probably growing up poor in East Texas, the main thing that I wanted was to get the F out of there, not to crap on Texas or anything, but I just knew that I was meant to be outside of there and to see the world.
So because they're like Juggalos and Juggalettes are misunderstood by mainstream society, do you think that the film challenged or reinforced your preconceptions about the community?
I was way more drawn to it because watching the kind of interviews, research, like what's going on with these guys, they fucking around, tipping over porta potties, all kinds of that stuff. It's like these guys are looking for trouble, but they're not. That's just how they have fun. And at the end of the day, they're not trying to go to jail or hurt anybody. That's how alternative people like to have fun, So it drew me to them for sure. And the real Juggalos that we've met at some of the screenings, they are the nicest, most down-to-earth people you can, just full of love, huge hearts. They'll accept you however you are. They're amazing people, which I had no idea about, right?
Absolutely. And how about you, Scott? Did you?
I really didn't have preconceptions because I hadn't seen it until I got the script and someone said, I think I had seen that one movie with Kate McKinnon in it. I think it's called Family, right?
Yeah.
The most, and they seemed fun, but it was clear that they were kind of the butt of the joke, which I never I come from a community that's the butt of the joke, and I don't I always, when you're making one kind of person the butt of the joke, I see what you're doing. You know what I mean? And I'm always like, maybe that's somebody I actually do want to get to know. So in terms of having preconceptions, not really. But yeah, it was really just the more I got to know it, I think something that happened for me and that continues as our relationship with the community grows is I think about the kids in school who weren't for school, you know what I mean? They were class clowns, or the ones that were labeled troublemakers or whatever. And I was like, because I was the kid who was traumatized in the way that was like, you have to be the smartest person in the room so people will like you and you'll be safe, right? And I look down on those kids. And as I'm like, oh no, this is who those kids become, and that's awesome. Like I should have been kids from the beginning, you know. I think if anything, in becoming closer to the Juggalo community through this film has shown me my prejudices against all kinds of people and shown me a way to not have them, which is just to love people no matter what, find the ways to appreciate them, consider them family no matter what, and just go from there.
Was there any moment on set that you guys feel made a big impact on you, whether it was Scott watching Johnny in character or Ashley watching Johnny, or you know what I mean? Like whoever watching whoever, or something that happened that just like sparked in your mind, like, wow, I didn't look at life like that. I didn't realize that till I said it out loud or something. Do you know what I mean?
When Scott and Ashley start getting close, that scene that we have in her trailer, and that beautiful moment in the film between them two, that kind of, if I wasn't already bought in, then that, I think all of us got really tight after that day. That was, I don't know, some days and some scenes you just feel like this is it. Now I'm totally in it. You know, you're kind of finding the character those first few days. That day, I think, kind of locked us in. That you two, that was just beautiful moments between them. That was like, I gotta up my game. Like this is real now. Like that, it just felt so real, and they did such an amazing job.
It was my first day on set. I was so nervous. I had so.
That was your first
dialogue. Day? Yeah, that was day one, or that was, I think maybe I'd been integrated already, but it was my first scene. Well,
yeah,
that was the first scene was outside right before that, the car scene or whatever, the sex table scene. Just gonna throw that out there to confuse anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But yeah, no, I was very nervous because there was so much dialogue. And you guys you're so good in the movie. Like, again, I just saw it the other day and I was just like, wow, this, I feel so honored to be acting with you guys. You're just phenomenal actors, really. And I remember feeling so nervous, and y'all just like accepted me as family right away. You were just like, what up? Like, let's do this. And I remember Scott doing the sickest rapping for me, talking about my farts. Still my favorite line in the movie. It was just such a great way to break the ice. And like, yeah, like it does get really serious in the bedroom. And John, you do a beautiful like breaking of the seriousness that I think the scene really needed as well, because it's like we're all lighthearted and then it's like serious, very
heavy, right? Yeah.
Very heavy. We're all telling these tragic stories about these characters and like what they've been through. And John, it was just everybody's just did such a good job.
But I mean, watching you for this to be your first movie, like watching you operate on that set, I think you probably brought that in from modeling, like just knowing how to be a pro on set when everything's going on or whatever. But what you bring, I'm so excited for people to see it, you know, go like, oh shit, who's this star? You know, it's really exciting. And I mean, John, like the thing that people say about me and Johnny is like, we thought you've known each other for years. And I felt that way too. It was this like kind of, I just went with it. Like I didn't think about it in the moment, but to think about how special that is, that's actually something we created, right?
Yeah.
And that you would be open to for like a total stranger bringing all the Silas, you know, like there's so much special in this movie that just comes from the alchemy of the three of us, right? And everyone who made the film together too.
Yeah, not even that, just Nate and the crew too. The whole thing by the end felt like just you know, in most movies I work on, you don't learn everyone's name until the very end, right? But this one, it's just like you show up like, hey, man, we just knew everybody. It was like summer camp, fucked up summer camp, taking another line from the movie. Yeah. So when everyone else is so good around you, that's a challenge to really up your game, right? I don't know, Sean Penn early, you know, I love his interviews because he's like, are you method? Do you study a lot? It's just like, no, just never get caught acting. That's the idea of it. Like what Tom Hardy says, there is no method. There's convincing acting and there's not convincing acting. So back to your question on like being method and me and Scott getting along so well, I knew the more we could get along in real life, the more it would translate. And, you know, sometimes it's a stretch to like somebody you don't want to be working with, but God, we just had so much fun. Even when we weren't rolling, it was pretty much just Trey and Silas, right? Just fucking around in the van. That made it so much easier when you actually do like love your scene partners.
So that van that you guys drove around in, was that actually like distressed, or was that like?
That was a real van. That was a real piece of shit. It was, but it was amazing, right? Like,
it was real, and it ran until it didn't run. We had a full-on breakdown, 3-4 days into shooting. No power steering, so it's me like struggling and all the... Yeah, it was great. And I'm supposed to drive with glasses on, but, you know, we'd be driving around at night and just like, okay, we're rolling. Be like, all right, I think I'm going straight, but I'm not sure. Get your lines down, John.
Speaking of people kind of getting into the culture and realizing, you know, their preconceptions, the script, he said, was kind of punching down at first. Like, it was kind of making fun and kind of a comedy that made fun of Juggalos. And when he went to the gathering, he was like, oh no, I have to change all of this. Like, this has to be real and about what this is really about. So that's what you got from him just showing up, and he took some footage, you know, but really he just got to, yeah, I mean, he says like, I was baptized in Fago, you know, like he had that experience.
And that was really what inspired me to make this film. So it really is not a documentary. There is a small sort of semi-documentary element to it. It's kind of like I call it like the nature documentary portion of the film, because there's like, you know, there's sort of this voiceover, and there's these, you know, shots of Juggalos at the gathering from 21. And there's like, the voiceover kind of describes some stuff about what Juggalos are. Because the truth is that there are a lot of people out there who don't know what Juggalos are. And like, you know, my 70-something parents like trying to tell their, you know, church group that their son made a movie about Juggalos, and they're like, what's that? And they're like, well, just watch the movie.
Kind of like the Beatles.
OffRamp is coming out September 6th on all the streaming platforms that, like, anywhere you can buy or rent a movie. So iTunes, Amazon, Roku, Microsoft. On September 10th, it'll be out on DVD on Amazon. Best place to find that information is on offrampfilm.com. All of our socials are also OffRamp Film. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all is OffRamp Film. So look it up, September 6th. It'll be like, you know, y'all are missing the gathering, and, you know, you just want to feel like you've been home, and this movie hopefully will remind you of that.
Whoop, whoop.